Have you ever wondered about the origins and intriguing facts behind the old board games that have entertained generations? These timeless treasures, adored worldwide, hold a rich history that's often overlooked. They're more than just pieces and boards. They're relics of our past, echoing ancient civilizations and forgotten traditions. In today's journey, we'll be unearthing 20 curiosities about these beloved games, shedding light on their fascinating tales. So, sit back and prepare to be amazed by these captivating facts about your favorite old board games. Did you know that the oldest known board game dates back to around 3500 BC? That's right, the game of Senet, discovered in pre-dynastic and First Dynasty burials in Egypt, is the earliest board game we know of. Its exact rules are the subject of some debate, but it's clear that even then, board games served as a fascinating pastime for people. Moving on, we have the Royal Game of Ur, another ancient game that originated in Mesopotamia around 2600 BC. It's a two-player strategy race game and was popular across the Mediterranean. The game was so loved it was even played for over 1,000 years. Now let's talk about Go. This strategic board game for two players is one of the oldest continuously played board games in the world. Originating in China more than 2,500 years ago, Go holds a significant place in East Asian culture, comparable to that of chess in the West. Speaking of chess, did you know it was once considered a royal game? Originating in northern India in the 6th century AD, chess spread across the Persia, Arab world, and eventually to medieval Europe, where it was adapted to its current form. Throughout history, it has been associated with nobility and high culture, and was often used by European nobility to teach war strategy. And then there's the influence of war on board games. Many ancient board games were designed to mimic or simulate warfare. Chess, as we just mentioned, is one example. But there's also the game of Patea, played by the Greeks and Romans, which was directly modeled after the strategies of war. These curiosities give us a glimpse into how deeply ingrained board games are in human history and culture. From serving as a reflection of societal values to being tools of strategy and symbols of status, board games have always been more than just a way to pass the time. Stay tuned as we continue to unravel more fascinating facts about old board games. Ever heard of the board game that was believed to communicate with the dead? The late 19th century saw a surge in spiritualism, and board games were no exception to this trend. One such game was the Ouija board. Invented in the late 1800s, it was believed to act as a medium between the living and the dead. However, it's not all as spooky as it sounds. In fact, the Ouija board was often used as a parlor game during parties to entertain guests. Moving on from the spiritual to the strategic, let's talk about the checkered game of life. In 1860, Milton Bradley, the man who would later establish one of the largest board game companies in the world, patented this game. The checkered game of life was the first game to be patented in the United States. Interestingly, it was not just about entertainment, but also imparted moral lessons. Speaking of educational board games, the third curiosity on our list is the Mansion of Happiness. This game, created in 1843, was designed to teach children about good and evil. Players moved around the board following a path from infancy to old age, with squares representing virtues like honesty and temperance, and pits symbolizing vices such as cruelty and immodesty. Our fourth curiosity is a game that's still popular today, chess. But did you know it's one of the oldest known board games? Its origins can be traced back to northern India in the 6th century. The game has evolved significantly over time, with the current rules being established in the late 15th century. Lastly, we have Snakes and Ladders, another game with Indian roots. Originally known as Moksha Patam, it was a highly symbolic game, with the ladders representing virtues and the snakes symbolizing vices. The game was intended to teach morality and karma. Get ready for more surprises as we delve deeper into the world of old board games. Imagine playing a board game that lasted for days or even weeks. You might think that's impossible, but let me introduce you to the longest board game ever played. The Campaign for North Africa is a war game that is infamous for its complexity and length. Forget about wrapping up in an hour or two. This game, on average, takes around 1,500 hours. Yes, you heard that right. 1,500 hours of strategic planning, alliances, and battles, making it a marathon of mental stamina. Next, let's delve into the influence of board games on popular culture. Board games have been around for centuries, and they've left their mark in more ways than you might think. For instance, did you know the term checkmate in chess comes from the Persian phrase shah mat, which means the king is helpless? This phrase has seeped into our everyday language and is used to signify a decisive defeat. Moreover, board games have inspired movies, books, and even music. Take Clue, for example, a board game that turned into a cult classic film, and later a Broadway musical. Or how about Dungeons and Dragons, which has not only inspired a plethora of fantasy literature, but also shaped the video game industry. Moving on, let's talk about innovation. The first board game to use a self-contained electronic unit was Dark Tower. Released in 1981, it used a battery-operated tower in the center of the board that controlled the gameplay. It was innovative for its time and paved the way for the integration of technology in board games, a trend that continues today. Lastly, let's not forget about the role of board games in historical events. Did you know that during World War II, the British Secret Service created a special edition of Monopoly for prisoners of war held by the Nazis? These games included maps, compasses, and real money hidden inside to help prisoners escape. We're not done yet, we have more curiosities coming your way. Do you know which old board game holds the record for the most expensive version ever sold? The answer is the Royal Diamond Chess, which was sold for a staggering $3 million. This game was crafted with diamonds and gold, making it more of a piece of art than a board game. Next, we move on to the board game with the most variations. Monopoly takes this title, boasting over 2,000 versions. From cities and countries to popular films and TV shows, there's a monopoly for almost every theme you can think of. Our third curiosity takes us out of this world quite literally. Scrabble holds the honor of being the first board game played in space. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station enjoyed a game or two, making Scrabble a part of space history. The fourth curiosity is about the Landlord's Game, the precursor to Monopoly. This game was designed to demonstrate the negative aspects of land monopolies and was patented in the early 20th century. Finally, did you know that the longest recorded game of Risk lasted over 40 hours? Talk about commitment to global domination. And there you have it, 20 fascinating curiosities about old board games that have stood the test of time. Let's take a quick look back at the captivating journey we just undertook. We delved into the mesmerizing world of old board games, unearthing 20 curiosities that shed a new light on these timeless treasures. We explored their origins, unique features, and the fascinating stories they carry within their boards and pieces. Truly, these games hold a special place in our culture and history. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the intriguing world of old board games. Until next time, keep playing and exploring.